A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 170th episode of Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Just over 2 years ago, when the pandemic had just set in and schools had closed down, we at Notebook felt it was our duty to set up a platform for educators to connect meaningfully on, discussing problems they were facing with the rising need of digital education and online learning, and arrive at common solutions. Today, 170 episodes later, this platform has grown much bigger than we could have ever anticipated, all thanks to your love and support. We have discussed extremely curricular topics here like digital learning, NEP and assessments, extracurricular topics like sports and theatre, topics like school finance and management, and even evolved topics like mental health. Ask any parent about their expectations from their child's school education, and you're sure to get responses like upstanding citizens, holistic development, and a range of other esoteric responses. However, in a country that has seen abject poverty, large differences in quality of lives of certain strata of the society from the others, and has always had a large middle class, it remains obvious that a lot of parents do look at school education as the foundation to a better livelihood. At least for a vast majority of the parents of over 280 million students in school in India today, this is the primary motivation. Contrast this with the fact that corporate sector has repeatedly found the employability of college graduates in our country far below expected levels, and one has to wonder if the age-old system had some gaps. Today, we have a renewed education system. Even before NEP, schools were active proponents of vocational training, career counseling, and soft skills development. Today, we ask our experts and panelists to help us understand the role school education plays in the employability of our future workforce and future leaders. Our first speaker on this topic is Major General Neeraj Bali. General Bali is an Indian Army veteran who served for nearly 4 decades as an infantry officer. His rich operational experience came from several tenures on the border at Jammu and Kashmir, the Northeast, and Africa. He has also been the CEO of an educational society running 92 schools and colleges with over 40,000 students on its rolls. Later, he was the CEO of an engineering company that supervised the construction of major infrastructure projects in India and abroad. He is a trainer and a global speaker. Currently, he is also a teaching faculty of the Institute for Competitive Intelligence, Germany. He is the founder of Leadscape Advisors, a corporate leadership training company, an MSc and an MPhil. He is also an alumnus I beg your pardon. He's also an alumnus of the Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies, USA. He's also a certified life coach and leadership mentor. General Bali, thank you so much for sparing your time to be here with us today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Every time I hear the number of editions of this very program that you've conducted on really important subjects, I just can't help being impressed with the team that puts this together. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to be on a panel with very, very distinguished educationists. I have zero pretensions of being an educationist. I have had at best a small fling with this entire subject, but I will give you my views. Employability. Let me start with a story. So when I was CEO of this Rural Education Society, we had 2 ITIs also as part of our charter. Now everyone knows that the only role of ITI is to provide vocational training and to get jobs to students who are otherwise unlikely to find them. In our society, there were probably a few thousand air conditioners installed all over the place. So one of the ideas we hit upon was, why not get these maintained by our own students who are attending air conditioning and refrigeration course, which is a 2-year course. And instead of paying it to some dealer, some vendors, pay the same money to these students. So they'll have pocket money, they'll have on-the-job training, and they will maintain our AC. So I called the principal and mooted the idea. And he said, it can't be done. And I asked him, why can't it be done? And he said, because split ACs are not part of the syllabus. Isn't this astonishing? You have a 2-year course in ITI where the AC, which is used most in the world, is not part of the syllabus. So I said, all right, you bring the syllabus to me. Together we will take out certain portions and we will introduce split AC. And he said, it can't be done, sir, because none of the teachers who are teaching in ITI have learned split AC. It wasn't there in those days. Now, this little anecdote will tell you the crux of one of the problems of our lack of employability, which is the relevance of the education that we are imparting. Don't get me wrong, school education is hugely important and very, very valuable. But at the end of the day, if you ask students who have just left college and say, how much of your education really came in handy in your present day jobs, I'm afraid you will get some depressing answers, as I did just before this webinar when I spoke to a number of them. Now, there is a question being asked as part of the questions today. Is employability a factor? Should we even consider employability? Let me get this elephant in the room out of the way. Absolutely. While education obviously has many goals and aims and purposes, but it can be nobody's case that employability is not one of the key ones. No one ever sends his children to school or college with a view that it's all right, so long as you get education, I don't care whether you get a job or not, whether you work or not. So it cannot be the case. Employability definitely has to be one of the things in our crosshairs. Now, why are our children not employable? What I'm about to answer is a question I asked from industry captains, again, when I was in that education society. I would admit that this has more relevance to college education than school education, but I will give you the answer anyway. I got two answers, one of them not surprising at all, and the other one surprising. The not surprising answer was that across the board, people felt that much of what is being taught is not completely relevant to what is being done outside. That included IT being taught in colleges to students. They were learning software languages, which many of the industries are no longer using. So relevance is one big issue where I think everybody should be talking to people outside and seeing what is relevant and what is not. The second part, which was surprising, is he said your students simply lack the social and the soft skills. They lack communication skills. They have no clue of leadership. They don't have the mindset to work together as a team. They can't do any conflict resolution. They are, in some cases, not even groomed well. And therefore, it is very hard after the interview phase to start employing them. Now, that's a tragedy. Our ability to deal with human beings is perhaps inarguably the most important, the most critical skill that we all need. The nuance of how to deal with another human being is so important. And yet, with millions of hours that we pour into learning in schools and colleges, I do not think we pay adequate attention to just this one part, which is development of EQ, development of a growth mindset, of children understanding that all that they are getting in school is a foundational knowledge, and really the battle for growth and education and self-education is going to begin once they step outside. I think this whole business of relevance and social skills need to be addressed. Now, the point is, if you have to make, so what should we do? What will increase the employability? The first, as I said, is let us continually and regularly look at the syllabus and find whether the syllabus is indeed relevant to the needs of the hour. As Alvin Toffler told us, it's not the change in the world that hurts us. What is hurting us is that the change is accelerating. What used to change in 10 years now changes in 2 years or 1 year. Every now and then a new world is being created. You talk to the students who have just left college today, they'll tell you they're looking at jobs which didn't exist 5 years ago. That is how quickly things change. But do our syllabuses ever change like that? I know it's hard to change syllabus, but should we not set aside at least a small portion of time in our schools, especially in the higher classes? A small portion for which should be dynamic. That syllabus should be revised every year, and it should be about contemporary relevance and futuristic relevance. There is, of course, going to be one very important requirement in all this, and that is the teachers themselves will have to upgrade their knowledge. That was the single point reason why syllabus in college IT didn't change, because the teachers were, that they had to relearn everything all over again. So the first thing I brought out is relevance. The second is a whole gamut of social and soft skills. To give you an example, this whole business of dealing with the opposite gender is such an important subject. We live with the opposite gender most of our lives. And yet there is no formal education in most schools. I stand corrected in case it is in your schools, because I don't know. But with the kind of upbringing I had and what I've seen around me, there is none. The third is, let's prepare our children more and more for entrepreneurship. Our economy is opening up all the time. Not everybody has to look for a job. Some people should start looking to be job creators. So I think a portion of our education, both in schools and colleges, should be devoted towards entrepreneurship. Fourth, of course, is combining practical work with whatever domain knowledge we are giving them. And that is where the whole gamut of vocational training and skills training comes in, to which I will revert in a moment when I talk about the national education policy. The last point I want to give as an army man, as somebody who served 41 years in army, is I think all schools should focus a little bit on sending children to the armed forces. It's not a career meant for Sainik schools or military schools. When I came from a Punjabi medium school with zero idea of what National Defence Academy was. And bulk of the children who go to the armed forces come from all kinds of schools. So I think there is a case in point. I'm not talking about NCC. I'm talking about really preparing children to join the armed forces, for which there is no special criteria. I mean, they come from the same demographic as all of us in other jobs. There is a slight requirement of a different character, but that's about all. Which brings me to the last point, and the one about national education policy, which we were told to talk about. The fact of the matter is that in India, vocational training has either been next to non-existent, or it has been something that we can describe as lip service in most part. I just give you the example of the air conditioning and refrigeration course in the ITI. Now, if you look at statistics, which the NEP does, they've looked at statistics from 2012 to 2017, and they said in India, in the age group of 19 to 24, less than 5% students went through vocational training of any kind. These figures, when you look at for other countries, are for Germany 52%, for US 52%, Germany 75%, and South Korea 96%. Now, the reason for this is that we have considered vocational training only meant for dropouts of class of grade 8 upwards, especially grade 11 and 12. And those who did vocational training had no hope in hell to get into higher education, because vocational training doesn't prepare you for any higher education. You don't get any, it doesn't meet any criteria. On the other hand, there is a social stigma, maybe is too strong a word, but we look at academic success or a degree with far greater fondness than we do with somebody who learns how to work with his own hands, even though, as I'm about to tell you, working with your own hands may be more profitable, not just in the long run, but also in the short term. So vocational training has been considered and deemed as inferior to the academic, the more mainstream training. And that has been the tragedy. And we need to reimagine this whole aspect now that the NAP wants this form of training to be introduced in the middle school and secondary school and so on and so on. And a lot of people should not feel the need to just make a beeline for colleges, but to learn something. You see, when I was working with this engineering company, I found, initially to my horror, that many engineers start at abysmal salaries. It will not surprise you that engineers get starting with 10,000 rupees a month. And then a thought struck me that the ones who live in metropolitan cities, you know that it is almost impossible to find a good plumber or an electrician who has been trained. Most plumbers and electricians have learned on the job. How is it that we find these jobs so beneath our status that an engineer will not consider being a plumber or an electrician, which will actually pay him far more than what he's likely to earn in his job? The reason is staring in our face. We have treated vocational training like something which people who have missed the bus should only be given. And that is what must change. So in the end, the NAP says that by 2025, 50% of all learners should have gone through vocational training. It has to be part of syllabus of the middle and the secondary schools, as I said, which is wonderful. But as in everything in life, the devil lies not just in detail, but also in execution. Unless all of us sitting here on this panel and people like us, we change our mindsets about vocational training, we make it more effective. And what's more, we help in changing the cultural ethos of our people. So they start treating work with hands as a noble and an uplifting profession. And then only then our education will become even more employable. Thank you for listening to me patiently. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that wonderful introduction to this topic. We could not have asked for better. Pouring from your experiences in the forces as the CEO of an educational society and obviously as the leader of an engineering company, sir, I think you've given us the broad gamut right from preparation to the ultimate goal of employability and education. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker on this topic is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, a fellow of the ICAI, and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. An avid reader and a passionate traveler, Achin has keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Should I be audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session. How will the world look like, say, around a decade from now? Automation, as we are all aware, has already taken over so many aspects of our lives. And I'm sure that's only going to increase with each passing year. So there's a huge possibility that around 40% of jobs, 30 to 40% of jobs that currently exist standing today will be fully or partially automated because of artificial intelligence. So as a result, we need to acquire the necessary skills that are hard and are difficult for machines to recreate. So socioeconomic skills such as the creativity, critical thinking, communication, confidence. So in a way, much more than domain knowledge or technical skills. I think the ask is much more. And today, standing at this crossroad, we would naturally expect education as the only savior, as the only messiah to empower and enlighten us. To empower and enlighten us with all the necessary skills that are required. So be it developing something like critical thinking or social skills, naturally we would expect education to come to our rescue. We would expect that all these skills would be duly inculcated in our children. Now today, if you look at employability of students, and how do we look at ways and means of enhancing it? And if you start right from the school level, of course, if you look at things from the holistic level, naturally, expectation of the ask at a university level or at a vocational level is far more. But I think the seeds, developing some very, very important habits or traits starts right at the school. And children who are entering school today will most likely work in careers that have not yet been heard of. So naturally, they'll have to be equipped with skills that future decades will demand. And when we discuss about empowering them, about scaling them, both as job creators and as job seekers, they're equally important. And these are difficult times, unprecedented times, not merely because of COVID-19 pandemic that we have seen during last 2.5 years, but also because of accelerating technology penetration in our day-to-day lives, driven by the fourth industrial revolution, the way the nomenclature goes. So today we are at a crossroad, we are at an inflection point in history where in the next 15 years, the world will change more than it did in the last 150 years in terms of technology. There's no doubt about it. It's changing at a very fast pace, at a frantic pace, and opening up so many new avenues. But along with that, of course, it comes with its own baggage of challenges as well. And we need to keep pace. Now today if we look at employability skills in Indian context and whether our students are ready for it. As we're all aware that today, if you look at the broader picture, at the broader economic picture, we are one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And it's only poised to grow further. By 2030, predictions say that we'll be the third largest economy, only after US and China. And in addition to the findings of surveys, it also suggests that by the end of this year, India will have the youngest population in the world, with 50% of population below the age group of 25. So it's a huge opportunity, right? On one hand, we have opportunity of so many new jobs being created, 50 to 70 new million jobs being created. On the other hand, we have such a young country, a huge opportunity for demographic dividend. Along with that, we also read about aging population in Western countries and developed countries around the world. But the question is, are we ready for this? Will we be able to make the maximum out of this this opportunity? Because of course, the window is limited. The time window is very, very limited. If we miss the bus, we will never get a second shot at it. So are our students skilled enough to compete globally and be successful in getting those jobs? Now, while on one hand, we are transitioning rapidly into a very powerful economy, but today if you look at the education system, and I'm not discussing about K-12 alone, if you look at the overall picture, including the entire university structure, everything, the focus, and here not only in terms of educators, but also I think parents also have a huge responsibility in this. The focus of the civil society still, in many cases, if not all, hovers around scoring marks and getting good grades, rather than picking up practical skills, which actually will make our students far more employable. The other part is there's very little or almost nil industry academia interaction, which is so important. Mostly the education system is largely driven by theory. And the other part is when we discuss about life skills, which are so important for students to actually develop in terms of their not only profession, but also in terms of their personal life, is completely missing. Now, if you look at Indian graduates today, and if you look at publicly available data that is available in public domain, we can all see that a large portion of Indian graduates are not employable. So what happens is, at the end of the day, after putting in years of hard work, many of our bright, young, promising graduates, they suffer either from unemployment or underemployment. Now, of course, this is not a very desirable situation. And at times, when we read about business and industry being disappointed with the absence of right kind of employability skills, I think again, it's a very dismal picture. But why so? There's no doubt about it that very recently, I was going through a report, 2021 report by CII, which says only around 42% of arts graduate, only around 40% of commerce graduate, and around 30% of science graduates are employable. So even the report, based on gender, I saw the numbers: 41% of women and only around 39% of men, male graduates, according to the survey, are employable. And in most cases, although lack of technical skills have been pointed out, but in most cases, again and again, the gap has been in terms of poor communication skills and language skills, not being able to express themselves. And today, if you look at business and industry, naturally, they would prefer operational expertise. They would prefer someone who can be a part of a team, work together, be able to communicate their ideas, willing to learn, and more importantly, unlearn. Of course, sheer scientific and academic knowledge is important, but it's more important to be able to actually put that knowledge into action, to be able to apply that knowledge. I think NEP is a step in the right direction. There's no doubt about it. It's a wonderful step. And also considering the fact, as General Bali also pointed out, I think very important facts are pointed out with regard to the fact that nearly 5% of Indian workforce is receiving formal vocational education. This is going to change rapidly, massively, and for the better post-implementation of NEP. Because today, if we compare this to numbers that I was discussing, naturally, there's a huge gap. 5% vis-a-vis numbers like 96% and 75%, unimaginable gap. But I'm sure NEP, post-implementation, and then again, the intent is right. But I think what is really required is all members of the civil society, not only academia, be it parents, be it industry bodies, to all come together and effectively implement this. Because today, if you look at what employers want, and this picture is again common, around the globe, more or less. Interpersonal skills, be it verbal, oral, or listening skills, written communication skills, being part of a team, being able to collaborate, so important. Of course, values, work ethics, very important. Being able to take decisions. Now, that again comes with its, so the primary prerequisite is confidence, which empowers you to take decisions. Critical thinking, analytical reasoning skills, problem solving, or be it in terms of time management, organizing, or be it in terms of negotiating or taking initiatives. Now, none of this is rocket science. Bright young graduates who have spent so many years, and some of them, and most of them, are really hardworking, honest, sincere, and good at what they're studying. All it requires is proper implementation and proper planning, and to empower them with this kind of life skills, values, which will actually help them to optimize their employability potential. The other aspect, I think, few things which I think definitely acts as hindrance. Very recently, I would like to quote a small incident. So a very senior gentleman whom I know, and he's a very renowned craftsman, very good at his job, a very skilled person. And I have seen some of his artwork. He deals with pottery, and some of his artwork have been sent abroad to various international exhibitions, etc. And he runs a small workshop with around 25, 30 people working for him. He came to me with a strange problem. He said that he really wanted his son to follow his footsteps, not merely because he wants it, but because he feels his son is very good at it. And he said, my son is really very good at it. In fact, he's better than me. But the problem is that his son, after completing his graduation, has a fascination for a desk job. So he's very clear. He has told his father that I want to go to office. I have to ensure that I am doing a desk job. I have to sit with the laptop and work in an ambience where I'm being able to contribute only to my brain and not in my hands. Now, that is a very strange problem. So, of course, my initial reaction was that you should allow him to do what he wants to do if he's happy with that. He said, yes, but he's not happy. He's not happy with his work-life balance. He's not happy with the fact that he's not being able to grow. Already it's almost 5 years into the job. And he's terribly frustrated. And he really enjoys pottery. He really enjoys what I'm doing. And he's very good at it. But there's a mental blockage. There's an inhibition. There is a fascination for desk job. Now, this really explains that at times it's really important, because when we look at employability as a whole, I think what is really important is that recognizing this dignity of labor, ensuring that each and every occupation and profession is equally important, ensuring that I think what really matters is that are you enjoying what you're doing and are you really good at it? Then your chances of growth is tremendous. Why should you be worried about what your neighbor next door is thinking about your profession? Why should you be worried about what your distant relatives are discussing about you? So this fascination for desk job and unwillingness to get your hands dirty is again one problem that I see many of the young bright job aspirants suffering from. So I had a discussion with a young man, and I asked him, and exactly he came with these reasons. But the good part is 6 months back, he has gone back to what he really likes doing, and he's really happy, and he's doing a great job at it. And I told him that, with your education, with your worldview, you can actually add tremendous value to this and ensure that you're able to take your work to places, to territories which earlier maybe were unheard of. The other aspect, of course, is entrepreneurship, which I think is very important. Because this typical mindset of, because there was a time, of course, when there was a huge fascination for government jobs, or there was a huge fascination for a stable job. But in today's age, if you look at things around us, if you look at during pandemic, especially, post-pandemic, we all have seen those scary news articles, huge global MNCs issuing pink slips to thousands of employees. So today we all know that job security or stability only comes from your own sense of self-importance. It only comes from the fact that you really feel that you're adding value to the job. Are you really good at it? So I think entrepreneurship, being a job creator, ensuring that you're not only fulfilling your own dreams, but fulfilling dreams of many others is a huge plus. And of course, it needs to be encouraged and nurtured. And third aspect is focus on life skill and soft skill that we already discussed. And today's age, if you look at how challenging and how competitive it is going to become in near future, vis-a-vis what it was earlier, each and everything plays a role. Today, even if you look at your social media presence, and that's exactly the way recruiters look at it. Very recently, I was discussing with a gentleman who heads the HR function in one of the blue chip corporates. And he was telling me that the instruction to his team is very clear. Today, even before interviewing a candidate, they ensure that the candidate's social media profile, digital footprints are thoroughly examined so that they have a very clear idea with regard to his or her likings, tastes, the kind of circle, etc. So be it Facebook, be it LinkedIn, especially, it's so important. So today, if you, and also, of course, and at sometimes these footprints are indelible. And the reason I'm discussing this is only to show that with each passing year, with each passing decade, definitely things are only going to be more challenging. But the good part is, today when I discuss with so many youngsters, and I see so much of talent in them, I see so much of confidence in them. I see many of them are so sure of what they want to do. That gives me a lot of confidence. That gives me a lot of happiness that yes, our future is in safe hands. So I think these are some points that I wanted to make. General Bali gave us a wonderful start. Sir mentioned some of the most important and critical points. And we are a very esteemed panel here today, a very senior panel of educators, a very esteemed counselor who is here today to guide us. And I'm sure that their experience, their first-hand experience on this topic is something which will add tremendous value to today's session. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing, and I look forward to hear the deliberation. Over to you, Shubhai.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we have a wonderful panel lined up for you. But before we start with the panel discussion, a little bit about us here at Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech platform that creates short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. This means that every topic from every subject of the school syllabus has been converted into a series of short videos that can be used in two different cases. One is when you as a teacher are starting out a topic in your classroom. You can play one of these videos as a method of visually introducing the topic to your students. These videos are just 6 to 10 minutes in duration and take up very little of your class time while offering the right kind of material to students to generate curiosity and excitement. The second is when the student is studying at home months later. They have access to the same videos on their personal devices, be it a laptop or a smartphone. They can watch the videos over and over again until they get a very clear understanding of the topic that you had taught. What I'm going to do now is play you some short snippets of notebook videos so that you know what they exactly look like.
Hello students, welcome to Notebook.
Our last video introduced you to the historical context of Annie's diary. Remember, you may face a 10 marks question from this diary. She turns more critical of herself, repenting her past rude behavior with her mother. How is that possible?
Good observation, Lily. Now listen to me. All living beings, including us, live for a certain period of time. That duration of time is known as their lifespans. Some have lifespans of a few hours, to some days. Others like us can live long for many years. Hari is about to eat his eggs when a hoarse voice wishes him a good morning, adding that it is a pleasure to meet a boy like him. Alarmed, he turns round to see a monster crab walking sideways out of the rocky pool nearby.
We all know that human beings showcase growth. But what is growth? Growth is a natural and a gradual process. It is a bodily process that begins from the very time a baby is born. After a baby is born, it goes through a stage of growth till it reaches 2 years of age. This primary growth period is known as infancy. During this period, a baby learns to sit, stand, walk, eat solid food, express feelings, etc.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, those were some short snippets from notebook videos. As you just now saw, we have today connected with over 2,000 schools and have had more than 26 lakh students benefit from our videos. If you head over to our website, www.notebook.school, or use our mobile apps for Android and iOS, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal.
Hello.
With that done, it is now time to introduce the wonderful panelists that we have with us today. We have with us today Dr. Ranjan Roy, who holds an MA in economics, a B.Ed, and a PhD in economics. He has a vast experience of over 20 years in education. He started as a PGT in economics in Welham Boys, thereafter in RLPS Jhansi, and later on has been a housemaster, hostel in charge, and vice principal at Chaman Vatika. He has worked in Chaman Vatika Residential Public School, Ambala, as vice principal for over 6 years before taking over as principal of the same school. He had taken over as the principal of Dayawawti Modi Academy, Varanasi in the year 2008. Dr. Roy is the elected president of the Varanasi Sahodaya Schools Complex Forum of CBSE School Principals since the last 9 years. He had been part of the school managing committee of few reputed schools, including DPS, Sunbeam English School, Imperial Public School, and Jeevandeep Public School in Varanasi. He had been felicitated by Rotary Club Varanasi and Avantika, a group of artists and intellectuals from New Delhi. Dr. Roy has been associated with the ICSC New Delhi as convener, inspector of schools, and as assistant examiner ISC. He has been on the affiliation inspection team of CBSE, center superintendent and observer of JEE Mains, NEET, UGC NET, and CTET, and also a member of Flying Squad CBSE. Dr. Roy also received appreciation letter in the year 2014 from CBSE and for 2 consecutive years in 2014 and 2015 from the Ministry of HRD, Government of India. 2 years ago, Sri Anurag Tripathi, Secretary CBSE, had conferred Mahamanya Pandit Mahan Mohan Malviya Samman to Dr. Roy in presence of Dean Faculty of Education BHU for his contribution in the field of school education. He is also the empaneled resource person for training program of Center of Excellence COE, CBSE Prayagraj. Dr. Roy is also proactive in different platforms during COVID-19 challenges as keynote speaker, guest speaker, panelist, and moderator. In recognition of his work during these trying times of COVID-19, recently he has been awarded with Shiksha Ratan Samman 2022 by Sri Ashish Patel, Honorable Minister of Technical Education, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Roy is a dynamic person, always eager to learn and innovate. Sir, thank you so much for being on the panel today. We look forward to hearing your views on this topic. We also have with us Mr. E. Jayaganapathy, who is the principal of the Amrita Vidayalayam Senior Secondary School in Nagapattinam, Tamil Nadu. He has over 28 years of experience both in India and abroad in CBSE, IB, IGCSE, and matric boards as teacher, IB coordinator, principal, and senior principal. He holds an MSc in mathematics and an MSc in counseling and psychotherapy besides his MEd. Sir, thank you so much for sparing your time to be here with us today. We also have with us Mr. Noel, who holds a BSc in botany, a B.Ed in biological science, an MEd, an MA in English literature, and an MCom. He started his career as a science teacher in CSI Higher Secondary School, Kotagiri in the Nilgiris. He then went on to work for Guru Tegh Bahadur Public School in Sangrur district of Punjab, and then at the middle school of the Velamal Matriculation Higher Secondary School. He stayed in that school from 2002 to 2012, where he was finally the high school compartment. In 2012, he joined as the vice principal of the Alagu Jothi Academy, an international standard CBSE school. And from 2015 till date, he has been the principal of the same school. He has won the Best Teacher Award from the Lions Club of Mayiladuthurai during the academic year 2014-2015, received the Best District Principal Award from the Science Olympiad Foundation for making the students give an outstanding performance at district level in Tamil Nadu during the year 2015-16. He received the Excellent Leadership and Outstanding Support towards My Clean India state-level drawing competition conducted by the Justice Mohan Children's University, Chennai in 2016. He was assigned by CBSE as a Center Superintendent for CBSE Board Examinations in 2015-16 to Chinmaya Mission CBSE Senior Secondary School in Nagapattinam. He has been a lead school principal since 2018 for the Nagapattinam district, which has more than 16 schools and has been running it successfully. He is a president of the Delta Sahodaya Schools in Delta Nagapattinam district since 2019. Sir, thank you so much for being on the panel today. Thank you so much for making the time. We also have with us Ms. Toral Sharan. She was born in Uganda, East Africa, and raised in England, where she lived for 40 years. She currently lives in Dehradun, India. She is the chief mentor in her field of career guidance and admissions. She has more than 15 years of experience in the field of guidance and counseling. She was the first professional career counselor employed by Welham Boys School and was solely responsible for building a full-fledged career counseling cell, including guidance on subjects and stream choices, profiling, college requirements and applications, both within and outside India. Her endeavors has always been to put careers at the forefront, be it organizing career fairs, workshops, seminars, talks, or inviting guest speakers to relate their career journeys to the students. She has engineered schools into international foray and has successfully managed reciprocal student exchange programs with schools throughout the world, internships, summer schools, and Model United Nations. She introduced the CLAT IELTS SAT preparatory entry examinations and preparations required for medicine and engineering. She pioneered the setting up of programs for disseminating information regarding both foreign universities and Indian universities to students as well as teachers and the larger fraternity at large. She coordinates with the teachers for letters of recommendation, the admission office for bona fide letters, the academic heads for a school profile, and the examination department for transcripts and predicted grades. She encourages and guides students throughout from classes 9 to 12 to create their own choices. Ma'am, thank you so much for sparing your time for the panel today. We look forward to hearing your views. I shall stop my share now and switch on my camera. Once again, a very good evening, and thank you so much for being here. I would request the panelists to kindly unmute themselves and switch on their cameras, please. Once again, a very good evening, and thank you so much for being here today. Dr. Roy, if I may come to you first. So my first question to you is, what are the key considerations in ensuring future employability of school students?
Okay, before I talk about your question or throw some light to your question, before that I need to appreciate the continuous effort of Notebook since the beginning of pandemic till date. It is wonderful contribution for the education fraternity because there are many organizations, those who have put forward this kind of effort, but probably many of them were not able to continue. So your continuous and effective topic which you have put across before the educators involving all kinds of people ranging from school, colleges to universities and higher education, it is wonderful. Nothing can match this, it is unparalleled. Now coming to your question, what kind of consideration in ensuring the future employability of students? See, nothing much is left because Major General Bali and Mr. Achin Bhattacharyya has touched each and every topic, but yet I would love to put across the thing from a different angle. Before COVID, many of us were knowing that when we are using a phone, we know that we need to connect by pressing the green button and disconnect by pressing the red button. But COVID has taught us other uses. There are many schools, those who started with only WhatsApp as a mode of teaching or medium of teaching to the students as a kind of distance teaching learning process. After that, switch over to different apps and then Google Classroom, Meet, Zoom, all these. So many things they learned. Like it reminds me when banking sector was automation took place in banking sector. There are many middle-aged group or little old star, those who are working in banks. They are not very comfortable with the computer and its keyboard. They are not knowing the location of P, Q, and all the alphabets. But yet they have learned all those things. So that kind of resilience, a kind of problem when we face and how quickly we can come out of that problem, derive a solution. That sort of thing COVID-19 has also taught us. So now Major General Bali talked about communication skill. Then he did touch the topic like leadership trait, problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork, all these things he did mention. Here what is happening when we talk about communication skill, Achin Bhattacharyya has also mentioned how important it is. 5 elements are there in any kind of communication skill. Those 5 elements, sender, receiver, message, medium, and the feedback. Means who is sending it, whether it is reaching to the appropriate receiver, what kind of content is there in the message, and the medium through which it has been put across, whether it has been conveyed properly or not, and the feedback, what actually we wanted to put across and what actually the person has received, that is also to be seen. Now this communication may be verbal, non-verbal, or visual, through gesture, or it may be written. See, when we are able to communicate properly, that removes many other obstacles. If it is communicated properly, exactly what we wish to put across, that is conveyed, and then the work which is supposed to be done, that is also done, and time, we can save time as well. So this is the importance of communication. And if I talk about leadership, now this leadership, leader is one who is in a position to influence others. If a leader is in a position to influence others, he will be able to dictate others, of course. Now, if he is able to dictate others, he will be able to empower others. And if he is a true leader, then he will be in a position to work with others as well. So this way, this is the importance of leadership. Now, problem solving, when we talk about problem solving, it could be a problem for one individual, it could be a problem for a group of people, or for institution as a whole, or organization as a whole. Now, we need to go ahead with solution of those problems. Before that, we need to analyze those problems nicely, properly. And after that, we need to see those problems in parts as well. And after that, we need to go ahead with brainstorming, which is very important. Everybody's opinion, we should not snub anyone at that point of time. After that, we need to assimilate all those ideas which are put together, and definitely through brainstorming, we'll be able to solve the problem. So problem solving will also be there. Now, this way, I'm talking about all these transferable skill or soft skill. After that, teamwork, which is very important. One work particularly I can do very nicely, but all alone I could do few, not everything. So, but if we are a team, we are working together, we'll be able to do many things. Everyone has got some kind of, positive traits, some kind of acquaintanceship in something or the other. So if we put together, then definitely it will help us to build up a team, and it will be better for an organization. Reliability is another aspect which is to be seen. Now, see, for any job opportunity, for any vacancy or any post or any post or designation, there are certain qualification which is definitely essential. Everybody is possessing that kind of educational qualification, maybe even experience also. But in today's time, you should have edge over others, not only in terms of education and experience, but something which is not written anywhere. If one of such a trait would be, say, reliability. If you are able to depend on a person or a group of people, those who have developed a team in an organization, definitely it will be a kind of asset for the organization. Many things with less time, with no error or minimum error, you will be able to do that kind of work, which will fulfill the objective or vision of the organization. Then planning and organizing, that is also important. For any task we go ahead with, we need to do certain pre-work, then on-the-spot work, and then post-facto. That is very important. So this way, all these things are not nowhere written, but we need to do it. Now, in a team, if we go for individual SWOT analysis of the team, we'll be able to see who is good at what, and we need to encash that. So that way, this is important. There are few persons in a team or a group, you will always find they are, very much keen to take initiative, but only initiative will not help unless we execute that properly. So that is also important. There are many, those who are eager to learn. That is also required. So this way, we know any change you incorporate in any organization, any institution, there are a lot of, obstacles. And it is not very easy to introduce any kind of change, because nobody is very keen to come out of the comfort zone. So that way, if growth mindset is not there, then that would be a problem. We all know that after COVID, we know it better that we are leading to VUCA world. Now, see, this is the new world order. Now, there are the profession we are talking about today, which if I name a few, like weather policing. Now, you know, this is a job which probably many of us have not heard. There are career counselors or others, those who are talking about this. Now, policing, we know in our society, in our vicinity, in our state and country, police personnel are there. But for weather, so this is something new. Now, it reminds me when I have pursued the B.Ed course, who are teaching me or who are taught by 50 years old curriculum. I was also taught with that same curriculum, and even present day teacher, aspiring teachers, those who are in B.Ed colleges, they are also taught from the same curriculum. Now, uncertain future, uncertain job opportunities for the coming days or in the new world order, we are not changing ourselves. We are not updating ourselves. So those who, even schools these days, those who cannot update themselves, those who couldn't struggle during this COVID time, this resilience as one of the characters, those who are not possessing, they are nowhere. Every now and then we are finding schools will be sold, some advertisement is there, whether it is in social media or some other. So some problem or the other, it was there. So I consider that employability skills are, you know, non-technical skills which are needed to get a job. Now, these skills are, under the consideration of future employability, which is very important in terms of order. If I consider communication, that is very important. Problem solving, very important. Critical thinking, equally important. And decision making, self-management, teamwork, resilience, all these are important. Now the question comes, should education have the employability consideration at all? Now, see, the coin has got two sides. Similarly, my opinion would be, yes, education should have employability as a consideration, because we are supposed to prepare the children for the road, not road for the children. I repeat, we are supposed to prepare the children for the road, not road for the children. So we need to equip them well, and so that, you know, if I talk about, say, there is a kind of short form, STEMnet abbreviation. So full form is Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics Network, which defines this time is transferable skills are needed by an individual to make them employable. Unless we possess those skills, will not be finding any place in the VUCA world, which is the new order, as well as the kind of competition we are facing day by day. Now, this skill which helps, I do remember, if I go back to my PhD thesis work time, when I was typing on my own also with KaiWriter, which is probably not existing now. There was one guy whom I have employed to type when it has gone from first draft to second draft to almost nearer to final. So that fellow was doing on my behalf, and I was giving him writing. He has pointed out there are certain typing error or even spelling mistakes. And after that, he was so keen to know the things. He himself has opened up. He was working with a Remington typewriter. After that, he purchased, borrowing some money from person like me. And after that, he has started a computer center. I'm talking about the year 1988-89. And after that, he has employed many. So he was very keen. His leadership was there. His initiative was there. He's eager to learn new things were there. So these are the skills which are required. So after that, he has employed 20 to 25 persons. Similarly, I know one computer guy, one who has become very famous interior decorator in Calcutta, whose background was only computer and graphic designing and all these things. So this way, you know, if it is a passion, you will be able to go ahead. So I feel that education should have employability consideration. Now coming to the third thing, which all the previous speaker and panelists, they have discussed, that is skill education or vocational education. Major Bali has rightly said that this is considered as one of the inferior field in education. So that is the mindset. So we need to listen to all these things. We need to pause, reflect, and after that we need to mindfully go ahead. So that's what I feel, because when we apply our head, heart, and hand together to create a learning environment, I believe we will be able to survive. We need not to think about any kind of, we may lose job or something. There is a chance versus choice. Always there is something which goes on. Chance is chance depends upon your opportunity or circumstances, but choice depends upon your attitude. If you have right attitude to grab something, work hard, definitely you will be able to achieve that. So that way, every time we talk about NEP in every platform, everyone is appreciating. Definitely you see all the, before that, prior to this NEP 2020, what was there in 86, 30, 8 years or 9 years ago, that was also good. But problem comes in implementation. How judiciously, how honestly, how religiously we are trying to implement it. Since we are in CBSE system, we do talk about CCE. CCE was not bad. But the way we tried to implement it, teachers becomes not a teacher, they were documenting everything. So documentation officer they have become. Ultimately, teaching learning was kept aside. Everything was documented and they have become petty clerk. So that created the problem, and that way it was not successful. Similarly, for NEP also, there are many good things, but unless we are implementing this thing rightly, I don't think that we'll be getting good output. We may talk, we may have all kinds of praises. So, in this vocational or skill education, a skill-based curriculum basically empowers children as reader, writer, critical thinker, and mathematicians to become creative, well-informed, passionate, as well as joyful learners, and of course, the responsible citizen of the country and the world. Children think that for themselves and they need to be ready for the journey for their future as well as discovery. That is possible if we encourage them. Say they need to go where they wish to. There is no bottleneck. Like at the time of choosing subject after 12th class, many consideration, many parameter comes in family, peer pressure, family pressure, in a relation, who has become what in life. So these considerations which are otherwise not required, nobody considers the strength of the child. We all talk about our side example, Tare Zameen Par and all this, or the movie of Amir Khan and others. So that we need to see, we need to provide incentives as a scholarship or internship with some kind of incentive in industry, so that they are interested. Chunk of lot is going there. Then we need to have sponsors to enhance the skill education. So that is the way we can encourage. So we need to have our vision in a balanced manner so that we can accomplish our mission. So that is all, because there are many other speakers in the panel. I would not like to consume their time. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak on this. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Suwai.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for your kind words, sir. We have troubled you time and again to be on our panels, and you have always obliged us by being here. Sir, 170 episodes only happen when people like you support us. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Jayaganapathy, sir, if I may come to you next. Sir, Dr. Roy spoke about a lot of the qualities that we want to see in our students in trying to make them more employable. And across the conversation so far, sir, it's more of soft skills, more of personality development, that kind of skills that we're talking about. If I look at the school calendar, the majority of the time is devoted to subject knowledge. Is there somewhere an imbalance, sir?
Again, it depends upon the schools, how they are taking. First of all, I would like to thank Major General Bali and Achin sir and Ranjan sir for covering up almost all the areas. In fact, actually, if we are going to take a school education, it starts from the KG. You must have heard about the Montessori education. It talks about organizing skills. Another thing, it is training the children in learning the things in systematic way. And also, they give a self-confidence to the children, and automatically they develop the thing. But when you are coming across the classes, when it is going to 12th standard level, 10th standard level, they all start focusing on only academic matters. Instead, if you could have seen, I think you must have experienced when you were studying in your school. I do remember around 25, 30 years ago, when we were doing a school education or in college, we were given something called SUPW, Socially Useful Productive Work. They taught us how to go about the things, like we need to prepare phenol, and we need to prepare bleaching powder, toothpaste, each and everything, all type of things which we can serve it. So these type of things they were taught from 6th standard to 10th standard. Then again, they will be focusing on academics, because nowadays they are focusing more on academics there rather than this vocational skills. And what we are doing is actually as a school. And before that, I would like to quote one thing. As Bali sir was telling about inappropriate syllabus. Even now also, many of the things, whatever we learned 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the same thing is happening now also. As Ranjan sir was also telling, same thing is happening. So we need to do something to bridge that gap. Otherwise, it is no use. And once again, I just wanted to quote one thing. When I was in Malaysia, I was working with one school, which is called the Retd Smart School. When I joined there, I was surprised because all children were running around, and I asked them, what's the occasion? So they told we are going to have performance and awards night. I asked what it is. They told that all the children were recognized in one or the other way. The talents are recognized, and they will be doing everything on their own. I asked what type of professionals you are going to appoint to make that performance and award night in a special manner. They told me, we are not going to appoint anyone. It is going to be done only by the children. Because in Form 1 itself, they are starting teaching carpentry, painting, plumbing, whatever things they are learning in our India after 10th standard in ITA or something. They are doing it there right from Form 1. That is from 10th year itself, age 10 itself, they are started learning. And we were very much fascinated to see that, because that auditorium only were given to them, and they made a huge stage, and in front of the auditorium they made a big warship type of portrait they made. It's a 3-dimensional model they made. Not even a single teacher helped them, because they were trained to do everything. That creativity was involved in it, that skills, each and everything, innovation, and the entry point. So I was amazed to see that one, the type of skills they were giving right from the 6th, that is 10th year. Now in India, what is happening is ITA means the child who has not good in academics are sent to ITA or in diploma courses. Other children will be going to engineering, whereas the children, those who did not perform well in academics, are allowed to go for the IT. Now, the best professional now, even the person who has got a doctorate or very good, so many degrees, also not getting the salary what they are getting. Because just an hour of hiring these people, they are charging around 1,000 to 2,000 rupees. Now, this shows very clearly that the skill needs to be developed right from the childhood. Now, what we are focusing, actually, after the COVID, the scenario has changed. The children, those who are depending only on mobile phone, they started browsing, they started doing a lot of research. Now they have learned the way of earning money, like coding, decoding, they have learned, app development, they have learned, and a lot of things like video editing. So many things they have learned. And even some of the children have learned sharing shares, learned teaching lessons on shares. And sometimes some of the children, especially the age of 12, 14, 15 year of age of children, have started doing certain thing in their age group. I was surprised to see from one of my colleagues, he was mentioning that, sir, my started getting 80,000 rupees per month. And he's not focusing on academics nowadays because he started earning. And being a coastal area, we are in Nagapattinam district, it's a coastal area. Some of the children came and told me, sir, when they were absent for so many days, when we asked them, they were telling, sir, we started getting somewhat 40,000, 50,000. If I just go for 10 days to the boat, I can earn this much amount. Now, both things are there. First one is, if they are going to concentrate in academics only, it is not going to help them in life. Because you are seeing many of them are those who are engineering graduates, electronics and communication engineering or electrical engineering candidates are not in a position to replace the fused bulbs. They don't know how to do because they are all focusing on theoretical. Whereas these children started earning, they are not focusing on academics. So these type of things are also going on. The other way, those who started earning, they are thinking, why should I study? When I am getting more than what I am supposed to get, why should I focus on the academics? So these type of things are also going on. Now, the teachers are playing a very important role here. They need to update themselves. They need to find out the talents as a class teacher or subject teacher or a mentor or career counselor. So they need to, it is in their hand only. They need to update their knowledge, whatever technology is going on, whatever things are happening. If they are going to focus majorly on each and every student's development, along with the help of a skill development program by NEP and other things, surely this is going to make a great change. And I'm sure that not only depending on the degrees and other things, they can do all the things itself. In fact, in our school, Atal Tinkering Lab was implemented, and they are providing all the facilities. The children are given freedom. When they are doing their hands-on activity, they are seeing certain things. First, they are watching YouTube. They are getting some idea. Now, what we are telling is, don't go by that same thing. You just do some replacement, do some minor changes. Think everything as per the requirement or need of your own area, especially when you are going to see what will happen if you are going to lose the internet or something like that. You are going to do it through satellite phones or something like that. At that time, how are you going to do? How to identify, how to find out the tsunami, each and everything, earthquake. So they started already. Now, based on the thing, automatic hand sanitizer, all these things they started implementing. In fact, actually, our children, I'm so happy, even though it is a rural area, our children are able to do lots of innovation. So again, it depends upon the teacher. Everything is in the teacher. If you are going to develop your own skills and you are going to adapt the new modernized learning, then automatically everything will become wonderful things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that's a wonderful approach that you're taking. Mr. Mani, if I may come to you next, sir. Sir, we are talking about employability, right? The reality is a large part of this is driven by parents. And also reality is that the question of whether this is an engineering focused or a medical focused thing, because they want their children to be engineers and doctors. So there's a knowledge gap between teachers, yourselves, and the parents when it comes to the wider array of careers that are out there that their children could be better at. So how do you bridge this gap?
Well, before discussing about the topic, let me thank all the panelists and giving me an opportunity for this session. I thank the organizing committee, Notebook for Education. As Dr. Ranjan Roy and Principal Jayaganapathy sir and Major General Neeraj Bali and Achin Bhattacharyya spoke. I'm very glad that today's education system to be changed, because as they continuously say, all three of them, stating that the syllabus, curriculum, and the methodology, whatever may be past 50 years or 100 years or 150 years, is been a traditional method. One way or other, we are sticking on to these syllabus or to the textbooks. Whatever is prescribed by the government, that will be a state government or the NCRT. But as rightly said by Jayaganapathy sir, the dropouts and the weaker section of the children are being pushed towards the skill-oriented ITI or diploma courses, where that definitely enriches them socially, physically. As sir said, hands-on experience, they come out well. When comparing to the children who are doing well in the academics or sticking on to the exam point of view, scoring marks and coming out with an excellent performance as a record, as a mark oriented. But when we see their skill and when we see into the employability, when they come out after their course of study, we see some gap where they are not able to cope up and they are not able to put their mind accordingly the skill that they're required for their particular job profile. So when we see that there is a gap, how could we bridge it? As you rightly said, engineering and medicine plays a vital role today in all the states, entire country, that everybody wants to become an engineer and everybody wants to become a doctor. So when we see this, we are not able to address the parents or the children or convince them that there are so many opportunities where the children can perform well and put them into a right way. It is one way that the parents pressure towards the child. One way I can say that there is an ego, there is an comparison between the parents, the neighbors, the colleagues, or in the institution, they brand the institution. See, for example, today, so many private organizations have come out with this entrance examination, aptitude examination related, the materials and so on. So when these are being forecasted and that been, established and advertisement and attractive scholarships and other things, ultimately education gets lower level, where the children, parent only focus on the final entrance examination. They don't bother about the knowledge that they need to take up in the school system. When we study, As sir said, SUPW was a compulsory activity for every child, where we have to take up any one of the activity and we have to shine in it. And we used to be, we are being allotted with the grades where we are at one point, they make it very, they ensure that we are eligible for the examination. So this culture today is lagging for the sake of examination. So when we say in class 10 or 12, the practical oriented subjects like science streams, and now even in commerce streams, they have brought this internal assessment. I don't think so that will give a fruitful result for the children to come out in flying colors. It's only a mark oriented, 20 marks or 30 marks. It's very clear that everybody is being allotted irrespectively that 30 marks and 20 marks. It's not for the deserving candidate. It is not for the child who really does the activity. So it's better to have an overall review of the education system so that the skill-based education can be, where the particular child who is interested, who is talent is being identified, and it is being rightly put in the proper manner so that the parent and the school or the teachers of education system put together as a team, take the child in the right direction so that the child achieves his aim, his goal, where the child will definitely get an employment in future. So my point of discussion I want to tell is, as we compare with the other countries abroad, as sir rightly said, like Malaysia, what they do, let us allow children to experience all sort of activities where they come out by their self-learning. Let us have, now we have come out with the flipped classroom. When we plan for the pedagogical plan as a leader, we see the flipped classroom. It is nothing but the child learns, the child learning, child center. We speak, we put a lot of terms rightly stating that the child-centered education, it is a parent-oriented, parent orientation program should be conducted, adolescent program should be conducted, so many varieties we plan. Career guidance as counseling has been part of our education. Everything is there, but how we put together to make the child a good citizen, a good human, and come out for his value. So we have to see the child's perspective and what the child really deserves, what the child is aiming for, how we can go together and make the child to come out instead of pressurizing with the traditional method or the parents, grandparents, relatives, or the neighbors or the locality, or comparison of the elder or younger of the family, stating that you have to come like this, you have to be like this, not to post anything towards the child. Let us identify the child's ability and see that the child has to be brought in such a way that the teacher's role plays a major role, and teacher have to identify, and that freedom to be given to the children in the school. Basically, when we see that there is a lot of pressure towards the children and the parent and the teacher, where the focus towards the syllabus. Ultimately, the syllabus to be covered, the syllabus to be completed, the syllabus to be revised, the child should score the mark. When we come to the point of mark, there ends. Every child is equally have the ability to do it, but where we put them in the right way, in the right path, and how we guide them and take them along with them, coming down to the grassroots level and taking them should be known. And that guidance, that orientation for the teacher and parent to be given before entering into the classroom for addressing the children. So that's what my view, and I hope that I think I have given the overall view for the professional courses where everybody should not post only thing. There are a lot of opportunities. Entire country have so many of employability available where we have to revise accordingly, because now only NEET or JEE is being focused. Why not other activities? When we study, we once completed our SSLC or 10th standard or whatever, we call that our secondary level, we are being sent for an ordinary typewriting classes, where today children right from the birth has been given with a mobile phone. Yes, they come out, they know all the features they do. So when they have that ability, they have the talent of doing it with a mobile phone, why not we give them what they really need? If so, there will not be any diversion in the education system. So that's what my final conclusion. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Been absolutely enriching. Sharan ma'am, I'll come to you now. We kept you deliberately for the last because you're the resident expert today. We're going to bug you for a while now.
Thank you.
Ma'am, you have been inside the system. You have been part of schools, and you've seen how schools go about career planning and employability. Today, ma'am, on the flip side, looking outside in, what could schools be doing differently?
A lot. A very, very lot. So first of all, thank you, Team Notebook, to have me on your wonderful relationship between the outside world and education. And it's an honor to be with very honorable panel. So thank you very much. As I say, and very seriously, a lot needs to be done. And yes, ensure employability. Why not? Everybody is going to do it, but do it with growth and do it with knowledge of enriching the individual. The individual lacks in being enriched in our education system. There is the element of right from your elementary stage, where we need to bring in curiosity, asking of questions. There is the angle of the stratification and the egalitarian part of our society that draws us back to enrich the individual. Those apart, there are certain things that have the need of the hour. And there are very, very reputed heads of schools sitting here, and I'm sure I have a few things, to say in my 17 years of experience. So the need of the hour is the paradigm, modular example shift in our learning methods. Okay, I don't think that the teacher has been taught correctly in our country, but I'm not sure whether she's imparting with what he or she has been taught to give to the students and inculcate next door neighbors' habits or restrictions with everything else within the school day. So what we need is more adaptability. And I'm sure if we adapt a little bit, one aspect through the day, that improvement, that system that we are all talking about of change will come. Transient is something else we need to be or inculcate in our students. Agility. Yeah. So these three things are very important for me to express, because they will lead to that student being far more employable than the situation today. And how? How are we going to do that? So cognitive learning has got to be learn to be or train to be more adaptive. in our higher education. I'll give you an example of a situation that I came across in my my career aspect of adding to working at schools. Is a student coming from hinterland India, a small hinterland town of Uttar Pradesh. Parents didn't know much, but had the affordability to send that student to a priced school here in Dehradun. I was part of that school. Let me admit it, my bulk of my experience of 15 years has been Welham Boys School. I started everything there. Bright boy, parents had the affordability, but not to send him abroad, and stayed for his IT postgraduate in India. And then after the 3 years are up, he chose to do psychology. Would you believe it? In Paris, France. So from IT to psychology. And now after that psychology master's, what am I going to do? Where am I going to do? How am I going to be employed? Now, lucky for him, he had a friend back in the UK, in Scotland. And this friend was not being able to secure a job, of being interviewed in a certain job, and felt that his friend could come across and would be more apt for that interview, and said, why don't you come here and, you know, try for this interview? He did, and he got the job in Edinburgh for Uber Eats. Now we think a boy with computer skills and a master's in psychology, and, you know, coming from India and getting a job with Uber Eats, you know, for an average Indian parent, that would be like, khana shana paras raha hai. You know, he's just serving food sort of thing, you know, but no. And I asked him, what is it that got you the job? Apart from, of course, the love of food. We're a gastronomical country of tastes, so it's inculcated in our blood. His analytic skills during his computer degree came in handy. And the psychological part of it was he was able to adapt people's minds, you know, and was able to give a nice graphic image of how this Uber Eats should go ahead and, you know, create more workers and everything. So if we count how many of this student do we have in the country, I wouldn't like to hazard a guess, because I don't think, or maybe I could just count them in my, you know, my two hands. We need a lot more inculcating students such as this one, because there will be jobs that are not going to be available that are here for them today in 10, 15 years time, and they're going to need to be more flexible. So these cognitive skills that we need to bring them to become more adaptive, more flexible, comes in with another angle, and that is emotions. You know, and I think Major Neeraj Bali nicely talked about that if emotional considerations are taken about the individual growing up from the school, instead of, you know, a number in the machine of institutions. And let's talk about institutions, because at the end of the day, they are institutions. From day one, you, I, all of us of different ages have been educated in institutions, you know, with the exception of some homeschooling, some few homeschooling and everything. So it is the institution that makes you, breaks you, breathes you, gets you out there. Yeah. So how many times in a day with the heads, the respected heads here, have they had to deal with adults like us, going to them and having, you know, two adults at loggerheads and have to figure out how to put us right? As adults, when we have a problem with our colleagues, we go to our heads for solutions. The students have every right to feel emotional and every right to be found, to give them a resolution, a right direction at the right time. They're young people. And I feel that if we get the emotional, psychological stand of our students correct, that would come with them being open, being able to be curious, being able to question things. I think they will eventually transcend into becoming flexible, adaptive, more mature adults later on. So these are certain things that, you know, because there's a lot of, the other angle is that there's a lot of pressure on our students, especially the almighty Indian student going through the almighty Indian schooling is like, you know, literally amazing, literally, and they still come out smiling and turning up every day. I'm sure if there were counterparts in America and in England, they would like jack it and say, go back home kind of thing, you know, and our students do persevere with a lot of adversaries and all the stakeholder pressure, you know, that they get. So I think the growth in, as Major Bali as in the mindset, learning new tricks, reinventing yourself with and upgrading yourself with, you know, old tricks, but make them into new change all that, you know, all the time. We need to look into the emotional side of the thing, the subjects, instead of you know, with careers counseling, I've had to learn to adapt myself, because I feel that we are choosing subjects to become something for employability. And I somewhere along the line go with it because that's how it is, but I do fight it every now and again, in the sense that go and do that subject, grow into that subject, and so much more will come, right? So we don't emphasize in saying, hey, go for 3 years and learn history or physics. And, you know, it's always the subjects are related and equated with the job. So if I do this, I will become a forensic scientist, or if I do this, I will become, you know, and maybe if we can encourage them to do a lot more variety of subjects, become a holistic, you know, kind of person, the university should be able to figure them out to becoming, you know, into further subjects. So individual subjects are never chosen. It's a combination of subjects to become something, which maybe we should have a little bit of change in my mindset of that. Adoptiveness. So the notes I have here for adopting the change is, you know, apart from the teacher-student relationship, there is a lot schools can do. And one of the biggest thing a school can do, or the heads can do, or departmental heads can do, is open yourselves. Open. Allow everybody that comes to your doorstep, instead of talking through the chair of your position, open yourselves, and you don't know how much you can learn. I recently had 4 very successful career fairs at 4 wonderful schools in Dehradun, and there were delegates and representatives from students who knew me when I first started in 2006. Had I not opened my doors to allow them in, I would have not known them even today. I would have known what they can offer our students today. I don't know, in this very busy world, everybody's very busy, and I don't know where that busyness is going really, so you know, but I think that openness is very important. So how to open the students for this sort of thing is from a very young age, introduce summer work, summer school. In the West, we do it very well. We had a compulsory section where 6 weeks during our summer break, or 3 weeks of our summer break, we were sent to I remember, a building society. And I'm like, goodness me, I'm not going to sit here and work. You either know it or you don't. A lot more joining your father if he's at the law, get into his office, get into his friend's office, get into hospitals. If you want to do medicine, get out in the environment, get with the farmers if you're going to get into environmental science sort of thing. Internships, gap years, structured gap years, summer schools, exchanges, and above all, in the senior years, introduce research. We need our students to work on research. We have parents saying, ma'am, you know, mujhe to Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford. वहाँ मेरा बेटा नहीं जाएंगे, तो just India. And I'm like, well, how can you make that equation? And how can I be a good counselor to advise you anything? Because, you know, our rankings, there isn't anything in the 150 ranking. Oxford, Cambridge will require research, and your son has not done that. He may be bringing 99% constantly, but to get into these higher universities these days, a research, and there's a lot of things available if, again, you are open to it. There is a lot. Now, opening, I should go back to my role. So I'm not going to blow my trumpet, but I think it's the need of the hour, and the careers counselor in an establishment plays a very critical role to put the dots together. The emotionally imbalanced student who's been forced to do maths and cannot do it, aptitude, attitude, you can love maths, not score, you can hate maths and be a topper. The teachers need to be introduced to, hello, there's a careers counselor in our institute, please go and send the students over there. Yeah, that's not happening even today. We talk about it, but there are so many institutions that don't have a careers counselor, and there are so many institutes who have it, he or she are undervalued. It's a very, very relevant part in the framework of the change we are talking about our students. You know, and she's a syllabus, she's a curriculum. If you think about it, give her classes, give her substitutions, get her to meet the students, get her to meet the parents, and find somewhere in your systems, institutions, syllabuses, you know, to inculcate that career counselor that would open another world to everybody, really, including the head of the school. So I think I can really, you know, go on a lot, and I love the contributions of my honorable panels. I thank you all. But again, the three main things: transiency, adaptability, agility through cognitive skills, emotional awareness, and adaptiveness. And I'm sure that's nothing new. We just need to go into the Buddha philosophy, which has done it for centuries. So thank you very much, everybody, for this wonderful opportunity, and lovely meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I think we would have loved to go on for longer, but
Yes.
I realized we have overshot our time limit by quite a bit.
We have, yes, yes.
Yeah, but this has been absolutely fantastic. This is my time to say the thank yous, but I'm pretty much at a loss of words, because this has been an absolutely eye-opening session even for me, because honestly, when we were in school, career counseling wasn't even a thing. We were pretty much into very limited number of pipelines. And as I've grown in my career, I personally am a civil engineer who went on to marketing, who now designs educational videos.
Well,
So,
you know, Sabori, how many of us had careers counselors when we were younger? And do you think sometimes, I think I would have been a better person had I had a careers counselor, or you or any of the panelists? We might have done better. We don't know, you know. So you're right, definitely. You know, it's the need of the hour.
absolutely, ma'am. Let me quickly, first of all, thank all of you for your time. I think this has been an absolutely fantastic session. Bali sir, thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful start that you gave us. As our panelists keep complaining, our speakers early on give us such a comprehensive start to the topic that then I am at a loss on picking up very specific questions to ask them, but it was wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Roy, thank you so much for your time, sir. Your comments on particularly on bringing students out of the comfort zone and having a growth mindset, helping them on the path of employability, I think was very, very relevant. That saying, sir, that you gave us, that build your children for the road and not the road for your children, I think will get repeated on this platform quite a few times. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Mr. Jayaganapathy, sir, thank you so much for your time. Sir, you made some wonderful comments. I think when you spoke about SUPW, it all took us back to our school days, where it was looked at as something that people grudgingly did because it took time away from the classwork. But looking back today, the work that I personally do borrows so much from my SUPW classes. Thank you so much for that reminder. Mr. Mani, sir, thank you so much for highlighting some very, very key points. I think, sir, you give us a straight batted response to where does education system need to be. And I think you asking for the entire system to be reviewed, to become more skill based, to add more experiences. and to put all of it together finally in a shape that leads the student or the child onto a path of better livelihood. I think so is a very valid point. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and for your inputs. Sharan ma'am, once again, thank you. Thank you so much for being the expert here. Ma'am, as you said, things need to be done. And we at Notebook believe that things are moving in the right direction, at least. If I look at schooling today vis-a-vis schooling a few years back, we have changed in leaps and bounds. But the 3 points that you made, ma'am, adaptability, transience, and agility with an emotional aspect to it, I think, ma'am, is something that everybody would take away from today. Also, your advice of opening oneself is something that is so true, not just in education, but for all simple forms of work or anything that we do. Goes back right to the Ikigai philosophy, where if you are doing something where you can add value and you take away value from, it's a perfect world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a fantastic session. To the people in the audience, thank you so much for your patience and for your time in being with us throughout this session. We look forward to having you with our next session. Until then, please take care, stay safe, and goodbye.
Lovely. All the best, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.